So today we're going to dive into something pretty profound. It's a state of awareness that comes from early Buddhist texts, a way of seeing the world that promises to quiet down all that noise, all that judgment that's constantly going on inside our heads. Let's get right into it.
Okay, just think about this for a second. What if you could experience reality directly, without that inner voice jumping in to label everything as good or bad, friend or foe, something you like, something you don't? This isn't just some philosophical thought experiment. It's the actual destination of a very specific path we're going to map out. But first, before we can really appreciate where we're going, we've got to get super clear on where we are right now. So let's take a look at our mind's default setting. Its normal, everyday operating system. And this slide, wow, it really lays it all out. On one hand, you've got our usual mind. There's me, the subject, and I'm looking at that thing, the object. And my mind just instantly starts labeling, chattering away. But then you look at non-dual mindfulness, and that whole split just collapses. There's no me and that. There's just awareness itself, a state of deep, alert silence. There's actually a word for this whole labeling process in early Buddhist thought: sign, or nimitta. And these aren't just simple neutral tags. No way. They're loaded with our personal history, our biases, our judgments. We don't just see a tree. We see a beautiful tree, or a scrawny tree, or a tree that needs pruning. We are, in a very real sense, building our own reality moment by moment with these signs. Okay, so if the problem is this endless creation of signs, then the solution, the entire goal of this practice, has to be finding a way to perceive the world without them. So let's look at what that state, known as signless awareness, is really all about. So, signlessness, what is it? It's a pretty radical idea. It's the act of just letting go. Letting go of every attempt to figure things out, to recognize, to categorize what you're experiencing. It's not about forcing your mind to go blank. It's more like a deep non-attention to that constant impulse to label everything. And when that happens, the conceptual mind just settles down. And that whole subject-object split, it just dissolves. And this is absolutely crucial. Signlessness is not some zoned-out, sleepy trance. It's the exact opposite. The mind is described as being totally present, incredibly alert, and wide awake. It's just that all the usual mental clutter has fallen away, and only the pure knowing quality of the mind is left. So you might be wondering, how on earth do you even get to a place like that? Well, luckily for us, an ancient text called The Smaller Discourse on Emptiness actually lays out a step-by-step path. It's like a gradual on-ramp into this incredible state of signless awareness. So think of this as our roadmap for the journey. The whole thing works by progressively noticing what's absent. It's kind of clever, right? You start small, by noticing the absence of city noise when you're in a forest, and then you just keep expanding that sense of absence, layer by layer, until you get to the absence of concepts themselves. All right, let's unpack these first few steps to really see how this thing builds up. So you start by tuning into what's not there, like the absence of traffic and sirens. Then you stop paying attention to individual things like trees and rocks, and instead you just perceive what they all share, this quality of solidity or earth. And from there, you let go of even that and dissolve the whole scene into one single, unified perception of infinite space. And I love this quote because it gets at a really important point. This whole practice isn't about pretending physical reality doesn't exist. The goal is to see how flimsy and constructed our experience of things is, so we don't get so attached. A wall is still a wall, and yeah, if you try to walk through it, you're just going to bang your head. Okay, now this is the big turning point in the whole practice. After you've settled into that feeling of infinite space, you shift your attention to the one thing that's aware of the space, your own consciousness. The mind literally turns back on itself, and right there, the subject becomes its own object, and that fundamental split between you, the observer, and the world you're observing, it just collapses. So now, with just awareness itself left in the picture, the next step is to investigate it. What is this mind, really? And the insight here is that the mind itself is no thing. It's not a solid, separate entity that lives behind your eyes. It doesn't have any inherent thingness. You get to directly experience the empty, flowing nature of consciousness itself. And then, after all these stages of carefully taking things apart, you arrive. The final step is to just let go of everything, even the idea of nothingness or emptiness. You drop all effort, you release all mental projects, and you just abide. And that is the peak experience of signlessness. Profound, alert silence. Now, a practice this powerful, one that so completely deconstructs your reality, well, it sounds amazing, but it also comes with some serious warnings. The tradition was incredibly clear that you can't just dive into this kind of deep work without an essential foundation. Which brings us to a really important question. Can this actually be dangerous? I mean, if you start seeing everything as empty and just a mental construction, what's to stop you from becoming totally disconnected or cold and indifferent? Especially for us in the modern world, without the right kind of support system. And yeah, the sources are super clear about the potential downsides. Without the proper grounding, these kinds of practices could lead to a sense of dissociation, a cold and distant aloofness, or even a kind of destructive, nothing matters attitude. And for anyone with unresolved trauma, taking your reality apart like this can be seriously destabilizing. So, what's the safety net here? It all comes down to building a really strong foundation of positive emotion. The texts call it an opening of the heart. And this isn't just a do it once and you're done kind of thing. It's meant to be a constant refuge. And it's the ultimate yardstick for whether you're making real progress. And these aren't just any random positive feelings. We're talking about very specific qualities, the 4 immeasurables. By really grounding your mind in loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity, the deep insights about emptiness become healing and whole, not fragmenting. The idea is that true wisdom always, always shows up as boundless compassion. All right, so let's pull all these threads together. What's the big takeaway from this whole journey into signless awareness? And here's the thing you absolutely have to remember. This is not about escaping the world. It's about engaging with it more clearly, more freely than ever before. It's a dynamic, fully alive way of being that sees reality as it is, without all the distorting filters of our judgments, our biases, and that endless inner chatter. At the end of the day, it's a path to a truly radical kind of freedom. And so, I'll leave you with this final thought. It's a question this entire path is designed to answer, not with words or ideas, but with your own direct experience. If you were to truly let go of every single label your mind has ever put on the world, what remains?